All right, so today I'm back in Austin in a different Airbnb, but we'll get into all of that. I've got my coffee, you can go grab yours or whatever you wanna chill with. But I just wanted to sit down and talk. I feel like it's been a minute. Have some updates and also just felt like catching up this morning. So we're just gonna get into it, but if you enjoy this video while you're watching, you can give it a thumbs up. I really appreciate all of you guys who watch and comment and thumbs up the video. Thank you. It does help out people's channels when you do that, so thank you. I got my hair chopped off again in Seattle and now I'm getting used to it being quite short again. So when I was on the plane, I screenshotted a bunch of questions to answer here, but also let's just like chat. I'm gonna give you an overview of what's been going on. So if you're new here, by the way, this is almost month 4 of, there's no other better way to say it, I feel like, than like the nomad life. It kind of makes me cringe, but also like what other, it's like the no lease bouncing around traveling life. So I feel like nomad life is kind of the only way that I've heard to explain it. But basically, yeah, I don't have a permanent lease. I put all my stuff in storage in Seattle. I'm traveling around to different cities, staying mostly like a few weeks at least in each one. I'm eventually gonna move somewhere once I figure out where I want to move. So I'm kind of doing like a mix of testing out where I'm gonna potentially move, but also just traveling around because I love to do that. So that's what I've been doing for the last almost 4 months. So I've been living out of 2 suitcases, moving around. I did 2 months in New York City, then went to Boston. That's where we're gonna start off right here with this update. So first question, what did you dislike about living in Boston? Some people said, I think you left Boston early. What was the reason? My parents came for the first week. It was great. We did a bunch of things, saw pretty much everything in Boston. No, but we saw a lot of Boston. We went to a bunch of the museums, saw like the main areas, I would say. It was fun. We were there for New Year's. It was all great. First, my thoughts on the city of Boston. I think it's a great place to visit. For me, it reminded me a lot of Seattle. It was basically like a mini Seattle is what it felt like. When you're in Seaport looking at, I want to say it's North End or whatever's across the water from Seaport, it looks exactly like Seattle, and I love Seattle, but I was just there for, you know, however long, 7, 8 years, still don't know. I'm just looking for more of a change. It also just felt like just a lot of the aspects, like the people, a lot of the things just reminded me of Seattle. I think it would be difficult to do a Seattle to Boston move. I could see a Boston to Seattle move being really great for someone, unless you want like a smaller city and to be closer to New York City and stuff. That is nice. If you're in Boston, you can take the train to New York. I know there's like so many cool coastal cities, Portland, Maine, Salem, like there's a lot of great things around Boston. But for me, it's not what I'm looking for long term. I don't know, I wasn't feeling it there in many ways. And I think part of that was because it was the first city where I don't know anyone, and I've done a lot of like solo travel myself. I've been to Iceland myself, I've been to Turkey myself. Like I usually can meet people in different cities. If you're like really traveling around, it's pretty easy, I feel like, to meet people by yourself. But living in an apartment in Cambridge, I was in Cambridge, which is all very cute. You know, went to Harvard, went to museums, like did it all. It's all cute. I'm not trying to like shit on Boston here. About 2 weeks in, I was just like going through some personal stuff. It's the combo of like being there in winter, being fully alone in the apartment while also going through stuff where I just felt like I needed to be around friends and like be distracted. It wasn't a good combo. And there was a question about like loneliness. Do I feel loneliness while I'm traveling, and how do I like handle it? And I just want to say this because I think it's easy to look at people's like travels and be like, oh my God, they're living the life, they're having so much fun. And like, yes, 99% of the time, yes, but Boston was a weeks long period for me where it was like, it was definitely the loneliest I've ever felt in my entire life. It really made me feel for people who were isolated during like lockdown, because that's kind of how I felt. I also wasn't feeling great, so I was just in bed a lot of the time. It was just not a good combo. I basically just like had to work a ton in the time that I was out of bed. It was the Sigma launch, so I just had like a bunch of added work on top of it. So it was almost good that I was kind of like, you know, I didn't have much else going on, so it was okay to be like all in on work. But yeah, I was just very lonely during my time in Boston. And I think that's just part of this process. Like, and I think if you're doing something like this, you just have to be okay with that and know it is part of what you might experience. Like, you might feel lonely sometimes, you know? But I think it was a good learning lesson for me in a lot of ways. I kept waiting. Like a couple weeks in, I was like, okay, just push through 2 more weeks. And I just was so not feeling great every day, like physically, mentally. And finally I was like talking to a couple friends on the phone, and they were like, why are you forcing yourself to stay there? And I'm like, you know what? That's a valid point. Why am I forcing myself to stay here? And I think like in the past, for some reason, I would have just like been like, push through, you can do this, whatever. But yeah, my mental health, physical health, everything was just not in a good place. And I decided to go stay with Rach for a week in Seattle. So I left at the 3-week point instead of the 4-week point, so only a week early. But I literally talked to Rach, tried to book a ticket for the same day, but I couldn't get everything like packed up in time. So I booked it for the next morning, got on a flight to Seattle, stayed with Rach, and it was lovely. It was like everything I needed. I saw my Seattle people. I went to my favorite Seattle spots. I played with puppies and dogs, and it was just like, it's just one of those reminders that like it really is all about the people in your life. Having love and support in your life is really important. And in the past, I think I've definitely prioritized work over everything, and I'm just kind of at a point in my life where I really want to focus on my relationships, whether it's like, you know, a partner or friends, community, whatever it is. Like I just, wherever I really move, I just want to like build out a good support system and community, because I'm an only child, man. And if anyone else is an only child out there, I think like the loneliness hits a little bit different, because like my parents were off traveling. I was gonna go home, they were off traveling. Yay for them. I'm happy for them. They love their trailer trips. But it's not like I have like a sibling that I can call. Like Rach is the closest thing to like a sister for me, which I'm so thankful for Rach. But she's like, you know, my ride or die best friend for life. For those of you who have siblings, I know everyone has like different relationships with their siblings, but for the most part, if you have a good relationship with your siblings, like they will always be there for you. You can always go see them. You can always call them. And as an only child, like your parents, everyone's parents are going to be gone someday, or they already are. And it's just like kind of an isolating thought to think like, wow, I am fully alone without my parents, you know, like no siblings. So it really is just all about your friends and community. And Boston was just kind of like a reminder of that for me. Like thankfully I did have people I could call. So yeah, overall, I would say I have like separated out that experience of loneliness from Boston itself as a city. I know people are going to comment and be like, well, it's just because you were there in the winter and you were just lonely. Like, no, Boston I think is great to visit. For me, it's just not where I personally want to live. So that's that on Boston. But yeah, I just think it's important to note that like, it's funny because a lot of people like on Instagram have been like, you've been the happiest you've ever been. Like, yes, I am. When I am doing what I'm doing right now, this is truly when I feel like my most myself and just like alive. But that doesn't mean that there are, you know, weeks, for example, of downtimes when you're not feeling that way. They just weren't shown, you know? So I do want to talk about it so you know it exists, but I'm not like whipping out my camera when I'm crying, having a full-blown moment, you know? Is it hard maintaining a daily routine when moving around so much? I mean, yeah, I think if you're doing what I'm doing, you kind of just have to be okay with not having a daily routine. I realized I'm actually not like, I just stayed, okay, wait, do I need to rewind and tell this first? After Boston, went to Seattle, like I said. After Seattle for the week, I went to Austin to check into my first Airbnb, which I have a video on. I'll link that in the iron down below. The like first week in Austin, I had, you know, a few day period where I was just full-blown migraine in bed. And then there was an ice storm. So really I had like a few days in Austin of like being outside, which were lovely. I'm very thankful that I was able to be outside for those days. And then I flew back to Seattle for Rachel's baby shower and one of my other good friends' engagement. So it was just such a nice, another like long weekend in Seattle. Took their engagement photos. The baby shower was like full-blown party. Started at 4. I left at like, I think 10:30. Just like one of those very heartful kind of weekends. Now I'm back in Austin. So I'm back in the second Airbnb. I have one more Airbnb I'll be in here. But back to the question, is it hard maintaining a daily routine when moving around so much? Like, yes, for sure. I was saying, I realized when I was staying with my friend Lauren, she's the one who got engaged, they are very routine oriented. And I don't think I knew what that looked like because I guess I'm not. Here's the thing, I'm a planner. I like knowing ahead of time so that I can plan and get everything done in time and also plan in, you know, downtime, like not feeling well. So I like to plan, but I guess as far as like my daily routine, like nothing is super the same. I guess I have like my few small things that I like to do, but I don't have like a very strict routine. I just like get done the stuff that I need to get done and try to make time for like myself and walking. I think if you're super routine oriented, it would probably be pretty difficult to do while you're traveling around. A lot of questions about health, health updates after the surgery. How am I doing physically? Thank you for asking. I feel like I actually haven't given a surgery update in probably like 6 months. It's now over 1 year post-op when I got neck surgery, full disc replacement. I have like 1 or 2 videos on that if you are curious, if you're in the same boat. So I take a very long time to heal from things. At the year point is probably when I started noticing a little bit of something, but I still have just a lot of shit going on in my neck that contributes to the migraines that is basically not figured out. I am in pain every day to some degree, but the debilitating migraines I would say have been like maybe 1 to 2 less per week, which has been incredible because that's 1 or 2 days that I didn't have. But still, like in Boston, I'll have a period of, 2 weeks straight where it's almost every day. So it always goes in waves. But I would say overall the surgery, yes, helped a little bit. Still dealing with the exact same stuff and still don't know the cause. So I'm actually, big news, going to Mayo Clinic finally in April, which I'm so excited for. I had to really fight for it. I was trying to get into Rochester, the Rochester location, and it was a whole thing for literally 2 months. I remember I started in November when I was in North Carolina. That was a bad trip, health-wise, and she was like, it's time to go to Mayo Clinic. And so that's when I started doing it, applying, trying to get into Rochester because that's apparently the best location. After 2 months of just pure hectic, not getting responses, I don't know if they're totally overwhelmed or what's going on right now. It was a lot of back and forth for 2 months, and then I got declined from Rochester. So then I tried to get into the Phoenix location, which also was a bit of a struggle bus for about a month. So I want to say just about a month ago, yeah, it was the end of my New York trip was when I found out I got into Mayo Clinic in Phoenix. So I'm feeling very thankful that I can do that. My insurance, it's taken there, and I'm just ready to figure this thing out. That's planned for April. Mayo Clinic is booked out a few months, so it actually worked out timing wise. But kind of the more practical side, a lot of people were asking how I go to doctors or what I'm doing just as far as physical care, because there was a point in Seattle where I literally was having 3 to 5 doctor's appointments a week. There comes a point sometimes, and if you're in this phase, hopefully this will help you, where if things aren't working and you need a fresh set of eyes, instead of making that your identity and being wow, this is literally my life, I'm going to 5 doctor's appointments every week, I have no social life, I have, I'm working in pain and then going to doctor's appointments. That was it for a long time. And one of my doctors said something that I really think changed a lot for me. If you're hitting a wall with your health and what you're doing isn't working, stop going to the doctor's appointments. And I'm not, this is totally dependent on your own situation, but if you've hit a wall where you're going, but it's not helping after a significant amount of time, going there and having that be your entire week can be more detrimental to your health than the actual appointment, if that makes sense. A big moment for me where I realized I'm gonna just pause a lot of the stuff that I've been trying that isn't working. In the time that I feel okay enough to make it to a doctor's appointment, I'm gonna try and do something that I enjoy doing. I'm gonna go see a friend, I'm gonna go on a walk, I'm gonna do something for myself. And I think if you're stuck in that rut right now, maybe just try to evaluate what's really not working and just free up time for things that you like doing. So what I'm doing right now is I do have my doctors back in Seattle for virtual appointments. If I need prescriptions, whatever, check in. I'll go to, I went to one of them when I was just there, but I'm not doing the Botox treatments right now. I'm just full on waiting until Mayo Clinic, and I wanted everything out of my system. So if they did want to do some kind of treatment, they could. In each city ahead of time, a month ahead of time, I'll do my research on the therapists, physical therapists and stuff in each city that I need to see. Myofascial release has been working the best for me so far, but I've just been trying different people, and it's also a good way to test different styles and stuff, see what works. Definitely had people that didn't work and majorly flared me up, so that's a downside of that. But I've just been booking ahead of time in each city just to try and keep my body at a slightly lower level. So I'll do that once or twice a week in each city. So far, what's the top state you want to live? Sounds like you love Austin. I've been loving Austin. Honestly, it has totally surprised me. I'm pretty sure in multiple videos I was no, I'm just going to Austin to travel, I would never live there. I love it. It's such a cool city. It reminds me of Portland-ish, but in Texas. There's water throughout. It's just a very cool city. My number one thing I love about it is just the friendliness. People are so friendly here. My friend's been here for a year. I talked about this in a vlog, but she just has said how easy it is to meet people, like wherever you are, at a dog park, outside at a coffee shop, your apartment building. It's just like very easy to meet people here, and that's something that's super appealing to me about Austin. Okay, here's a hot topic. There are questions about, you know, how I feel about Austin being unfortunately located in Texas. Okay, I just rambled on for a very long time about this topic, but I think I just need to make this short and sweet here. Personally, yes, it's a bit unfortunate that Austin is in the state of Texas. There are things that I agree with and don't agree with in every single place I've lived. Are there more things in Texas that I don't agree with? Probably yes. I think what's important to me is, am I living in a city that is open and welcoming to all types of people? And Austin, yes, is that way. It's very different than a lot of other parts of Texas in many ways. How do you make your relationship work with all the travels lately? I am not in a relationship. I have a video talking about that. And then there were also questions about if I am dating, am I on the apps, am I dating? And have I seen my ex-boyfriend? Yeah, I have seen my ex-boyfriend. Are you dating / going on dates while living the nomad life? Yeah, I didn't in New York, but after that I have been back in the dating world. I'm not like dating anyone, but I am dating around, you know? It's rough out there, folks. It's real rough out there, especially in Boston. Rough out there. What do you attribute your independence / adventurousness to? That's a good question. I don't know. I think maybe being an only child, honestly, because it like forces you to, like, there were a lot of situations where I learned how to be on my own, basically. Probably that, but I don't know. When I was high school, I lived in another country, studied abroad, so I've just always wanted to do this and like travel and live in other places. I think it's really important to learn about other people and how the world works in other areas besides where you live. How do you juggle the house you own in Seattle? It's being rented out, and I have a property manager that takes care of all of it. So you pay a property manager a small amount. They take care if there's any issues, but honestly there haven't, knock on wood, at that place there haven't been any issues. It's been pretty great. And I also, like, it was just one of those properties when I was there, I had like one small thing. Watch like there be some huge issue. Now I'm saying this, I'm knocking on wood again, but yeah, it's been good because it's been totally hands off. Do you want any pets? I know it's harder while traveling. It's funny because literally everyone in Austin seems like has a dog. I think wherever I move to, I still want to travel. So the thing with Texas, I feel like I should touch on this. This is gonna be a very long video. Comment caffeine if you are still here right now. Thank you. I think one of the big upsides to Austin, 6 months of the year for tax purposes, you have to live in the state that you're getting taxed in, whatever. For Austin, I think it would be cool to kind of like time it to where I'm in like somewhat of the cooler months. I know it doesn't get like cold here, but I don't do well in heat at all. So that's something that it's supposed to heat up while I am here. So I'm like curious to see how that goes. It triggers my head. It's usually not great, but the thing is, like, it's not like Seattle when it's hot where nowhere has AC and you're kind of just like stuck dealing with it. It's Texas, so like they're used to the heat here. There's AC everywhere, there's water, but I think it would be fun wherever I move to do what I'm doing now, where like I'm 6 months of the year in one state and then travel for the other months. I definitely want to do like New York in the fall. So that's what's sounding like very appealing to me now. What was the question? Okay, I actually don't, oh, pets? Is that what we were talking about? Yeah, how did I get off on this whole thing from pets? Austin is a very pet city. I love dogs. If I could, at this point in my life, I would have a dog. I just think for multiple reasons, it's not the smart decision. Just, again, with health stuff, like what do you do when you're stuck in bed for 2 days? Like a dog still has to go on a walk. A dog still has to go outside. So I think it would be different if I was in a relationship and that person was able to help out in that way. But also with traveling, like if I'm planning on leaving for half the year, I would have to have, you know, some kind of plan on what to do with the dog. So I think as long as that's my plan, I would lean towards still just fostering. How are you feeling about all the big changes a few months in? You know, I think, and this was another question that was funny, someone was like, you just like bounce back after your relationship. No, there's so much you guys don't see on camera. Yes, I'm happy right now, but I also go through major periods of being sad and like questioning things, and I think ultimately I'm just trying to like listen to the initial gut feeling that I had and have. But yeah, it hasn't been, you know, the easiest thing in the world, but how do I feel about the big changes? I feel trying to listen to my intuition. Will the brushes be available individually down the line? So she's referring to the Sigma brush set that is available right now. We're all actually almost sold out. So if you have been wanting to get the brush set, I would say go for it now before it is sold out. I've loved hearing your feedback. I'm so happy that you guys are loving it. The brushes right now are only sold in set. I haven't heard anything from Sigma about being able to sell them individually, so I'm gonna go with no. They are available internationally, and there's also a small quantity on Amazon, so if you prefer to buy it through Amazon, I'll have both of the links down below. Will you get your nose re-pierced? So I actually did. When I was in New York, I got my nose re-pierced. I showed it in a vlog, and then I took it out a few days later. If you wanna know all about why and what happened, I'll link that vlog in the eye down below. Would you ever share your YouTube analytics? Probably not. I don't know what why would I do that? I know there's channels that like reveal everything. If you wanna like learn more about that, I feel like the resources are out there. I don't see the benefit of me doing that. Are you going to make a new Foodscapades Insta for the final city you end up picking? Yeah, I'm actually gonna just try and change my current Seattle Foodscapades account to wherever I move to be determined. Are your candles still available? Yeah, candles are still available. I think they'll only be available for a couple more months. So again, if you've been wanting the candles or if you want to stock up, now is the time. Will you buy a car again once you settle on a new city? So it really depends on the city. Like if I move to New York, definitely not. If I move to Chicago, which is still on the table, by the way, I'm still going to Chicago. If I go to Chicago, I don't know. I think I've heard like you can go either way in Chicago. I'm just gonna see how it is without a car. Austin, 100%, I would need a car. Oh my God, flowers. Look at that. I just got flowers. Cute, so pretty. Okay, I think this is gonna be the last question for today. How do you approach making friends in a new city? I know a few people in Austin. I think if you know like one person, it's much easier to meet other people just through like friends of friends or just like having someone to go out with. There are so many ways I feel like to meet friends, especially if you're in a friendly city where like people naturally just are talking to and like trying to meet friends. Seattle is hard to meet friends, not gonna lie. But wherever I end up moving, I'm definitely gonna like be on Bumble BFF. That's like a thing now. I've heard like good things about Bumble BFF. There are also like meetups in different cities for people who just moved there, joining some kind of like team thing, intramural maybe. Probably won't do intramural, but for me, maybe like pottery class or something. I didn't have a single cup of coffee that whole time, so let's do that now. So I think that is all the questions for today. Appreciate those of you who care enough to listen to me talk for 5 million hours. Oh, one last thing I wrote in my notes because I knew I was gonna forget something. There are so many YouTube scams going around right now. If you see any kind of like WhatsApp, message me to win a prize, and they're making you like pay for shipping. I will never ask you to pay for shipping for a giveaway ever. I always just ship it out to you. The only comments on YouTube from actual me have a gray check mark from them. I don't have any giveaways going on right now. If I do, they're usually on Instagram and it'll be from just my account. I don't have WhatsApp, so anything related to WhatsApp, not me. I've tried to like now block certain terms, so hopefully those don't pop up, but YouTube is just horrible at like regulating those. I try to block every account that I see that comes up, but then they keep coming. I know it's an issue going across a lot of channels right now, so just don't want you guys to get scammed. Don't give away your info, but I love you guys. Thanks for watching. See you in my next video. Bye.